Good morning and welcome everybody to this call this morning, where we're going to look at innovation in sales finance and some technology improvements that we're seeing through there. Just before we go into that, just a quick bit of background on myself. I've over 20 years within Barclays and held a number of positions within the sales financing business in Barclays. So personally, I've seen a hell of a lot of change happen within the business over the last few years, and we continue to see more change as well. Today we'll be looking at how data sharing technology can benefit SMEs and corporates, and also look at how this is enhancing the client experience from a sales financing perspective. The big data market itself is forecast to be worth sort of $36.5 billion by the end of 2018, which underlines a rapid phase of growth and evolution, with vastly improving productivity and interconnectivity made available in investments in big data management. The receivables finance and open account sector has tapped into this technological revolution and continues to expand and develop at a rapid pace with the use of digital platforms, playing an integral part in developing solutions that bring new benefits to corporates. Against this backdrop, we at Barclays have partnered with FinTech Validis to explore some of the recent innovations that are taking place in the open account space, which have made it easier for UK corporates and SMEs to share financial information in ways that save time, cost and boost productivity. I'm therefore delighted to be joined today by Richard Ellison from Validis and Torsten Hoffman from Barclays. Richard, it's really pleasing because Richard I've known for a while now and I haven't seen him for a few years, but it's good to see him back in the fold. Richard's background has been across the asset finance, invoice finance and also structured finance worlds. Latterly, before he joined Validis, worked for Barclays and then Santander, and has dealt with the small SME up to the large corporate type of businesses, so he's got a vast amount of experience in that space. Torsten, from Barclays. Torsten's a German national, but it tells me he's going to become British later this afternoon, so welcome to the fold. Torsten joined Barclays 10 years ago, and again, I've known Torsten for some time, but he joined from a consultancy firm. And during his time in Barclays, he's held various strategy and product management roles, and he currently heads up the working capital product management team with responsibility for confidential invoice discounting, asset-based lending, and trade loan products. I'd now like to hand over to Richard and Torsten, who will spend the next 30 minutes or so providing an overview of the recent technology innovations, at the end of which there'll be an opportunity for a Q&A session. But before that, we'll also, as we go through the presentation, there'll be a number of polling questions that come up, which you'll be able to answer through the web. And the first question is coming up now. What is your biggest concern when sharing your corporate data? So I'll leave that to you, and there are four areas in there, and we'd like to get your feedback on that. First of all, security of my data, how my data will be used, the reliability of processing, sharing my data, and what will be the benefits to my company. Now, we intend to share the outputs of the polling questions post the webinar, so we'll be sending out something very shortly to you once we've completed the webinar. So, without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Richard. Richard?
Thank you, Nick. And hi, good morning, everybody. It's great to be here with Barclays. And as Nick said, we used to work together, so it's great to be back in the fold as actually not working for Barclays, but here as a party that's hopefully adding value to the customer experience and the overall product of working capital at Barclays. As Nick said, introduced me briefly, my role is to head up the sales team for financial services at Validis, and our technology is implemented in loads of different ways in many different lenders across multi-jurisdictions and countries. And today I'm going to take you through a little bit about what data sharing technology is, and this weird phrase of how you share data using technology, which is very wide. So the agenda really is to tell you a little bit about the SME landscape, as well as my role now. As Nick said, I've dealt on the front line with SMEs for many years, for about 12 years. So understanding SMEs and the movements in the market is key to predict how you change products and how you innovate. And I'll tell you a little bit about how the data sharing technology works and how it applies and what it's used for, what it's there for. Point 3, where can it be applied and how can it be applied, which is a key question to say, what's the value to Barclays and to you as the SME. Common concerns is always a hot topic of people having a bit of a Q&A with, what are the things that normally come up to talk about, and common questions with, well, how does it work, and I want to do this, and I'm not sure about this, and so we'll cover some questions there. And then lastly, the benefits of doing this. Why have Barclays implemented this, what are the results, and what are the value that the Validis sees in its practical application across the market. Thank you. So the first slide I want to cover is really just to talk a little bit about the SME landscape and what we see through keeping an eye on this with our various parties that keep an eye on the economy. And the thing that we keep seeing is there are a number of key drivers which mean that the financial services market is backed up by movements in certain directions. And what I mean by that is this slide helps to demonstrate it, and this is from the British Business Bank's published stats. This is summing up various different elements of productivity and SME movements. So the first bit really is the top. It's trying to say asset finance deals of 12%, the value of peer-to-peer lending is at 51%, equity deals in SMEs is up nearly 80%, which is huge, and then the smaller business deals is up by 12%. So what we're really saying there is financing of SMEs across the board and across different financial structures is up, and up quite aggressively. With that, that's backed up by more and more SMEs coming into the market. So what I mean by that is whether it's a one-man band and a consultancy, or whether it's purely just more SMEs coming to the market, we're at a record number of SMEs that exist in the UK. The thing that really then moves that on is people that are starting an SME business now, or effectively innovating to keep up with the market, are using technology in more and more ways to try and innovate and keep up. And what I mean by that is basic SaaS tools, and what I mean by SaaS is sort of a web application that you can access quite simply through the internet to help you innovate and to help you be more efficient. So we're going to talk about accountancy packages in a bit, but that's a classic example. Someone like Xero or QuickBooks Online, you can now just go onto the internet and use an accountancy system. There are also invoicing tools, debtor chasing tools. There's loads of different ways that new SMEs use technology because they're new and they can do it more efficiently than the older ones. So this startup culture is driving the use of technology and the use of tools to help them innovate. And the way that Validis has come into the market is to help prop that up and to support Barclays with having an innovative solution that uses technology in a similar sort of way. So I suppose to clarify and sum up this slide, it's really to say the number of businesses has increased in the UK and SMEs is at a record level. The number of financing transactions seems to increase, and in different segments as well. So we're not just talking about overdrafts and loans. We're talking about private equity deals, people investing, as well as structured finance, working capital products. And then from those two things, driving the use of technology in small business is something that exists and is getting more and more commonplace through the market. So the next slide, really, we want to try and just talk about you as SMEs and what we see. Validis deals with SMEs on a day-to-day basis, so we have a help desk that supports our clients and our clients' SMEs, and we answer everything from common questions about how do I connect my platform, all the way down to the nitty-gritty of I've got a problem, help me solve it with connection. So what we see, and part of the way that we help to solve problems, is looking at SMEs. There's three key things there. Number one is they're time poor, and what we mean by time poor is that you're always stretched for everything you need to do. there aren't enough people, and you have to probably work longer and harder than large organisations that have extra manpower. So because of that, you want something that can help drive more efficiency and save you time in areas where you don't really want to spend doing admin. And that's a classic example of why the fintech market has evolved. And all these smaller players in the market are challenging some of the large banks because effectively SMEs can get a loan or a financing product quicker and easier, and Barclays are following suit in that by having this technology implemented in their solution. Number two, they're cash sensitive. You could argue that every business is cash sensitive, but I think if we had a risk manager in the room, they would say, if anything, cash flow is more king in SMEs than anywhere. You have to protect your cash flow to ensure that you're viable for the long term and to fit in with your plans on how you're growing year on year. How that applies here really is to say that if you're financing your business, you're going to have sets of figures and financials that normally are accountant prepared, and that can cost money. Technology implemented in Barclays solution enables you to do that without additional cost. Again, it comes back to ROI and the amount of time you're spending doing admin when you're probably a very expensive resource to the business. And lastly, security focused. SMEs nowadays are very up on, I want to make sure my business is kept secure, my data is kept secure, and how do you do that? Again, we're going to talk a little bit about the technology and how this is helping SMEs send their data securely so that they can enable their working capital product. Next slide. Thank you. So I'm just going to move on now to the actual technology of what we're talking about. So the basis of what Validis does is that it enables you to transmit your financials and your data to Barclays in a really slick, clear, and quick way. And the way we do that is we pass all the data from your accountancy package to Barclays in a three-step process. Now, I think we'll talk about why, but the whole basis of this is if you're financing your business, Barclays need to know the intricate details of your working capital cycle so that they can understand you as an SME and lend you money in a safe and easy manner. So that's the reason for doing it. And this has been done for years. Sales finance has been around for 30, 40 years or something along those lines. And it's a very labor-intensive manual process with a lot of data transfer. And this is why the Barclays solution is very, very powerful by using Validis to sort of power the machine, as it were, because it enables you to send all that data in a real streamlined and easy way. So if I get onto the actual process here, what that means is you connect your accountancy package. Whichever package you're using, we connect to circa 80% of the market of all the major packages. So Sage 50, Sage 200, Zero, which is cloud, Microsoft Dynamics. So there's loads of different packages we connect to. The point is there's some packages that are cloud-based, and they're Zero, QuickBooks Online. And there are a lot of packages, the majority of the market is not cloud-based, and they are either installed on your laptop or on your server, and they're called offline packages. Now, Validis helps to solve for both of those package differentiators and the way the technology works without installing anything, which is the key point. As an SME, you don't want to have to install a program and start using a program just to send your data in. And that's why email and PDF has ruled for a long time, because it's easier and quicker to transfer. So once we connect to your package without installing anything, it's a widget or an applet that helps transmit the data. You as a corporate will then have your data standardized and then sent to Barclays in a secure manner in a portal. And why do we do that? One of the key inefficiencies that is still around in banking is that when your data is put together and sent to Barclays, it will be in a very different format from the next corporate, and then again from the next corporate, and then again. And that means that Barclays then has to understand that data and dig into it and dig into the format and then understand what's in there. Validis helps to transmit that data in a standardized way so that Barclays can analyze your data and understand it very, very quickly compared to the old process, or the more traditional process, I probably should say. And what does that mean? Well, all that means is, we transmit the things they need, which is a P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, debtors, creditors, and then we summarize it in a way that Barclays can understand it. And then that's transmitted into a portal for them to see. So everything's web-based. You, as the corporate, log on with a username and password. You connect your accounting package, the data flows, and then Barclays can see that. And that's how it works. So we take all the transactions and we basically put them into a nice pretty picture so that Barclays can understand it in a format that's consistent going forward. Thank you. Next slide. And it's always good to talk about, once we've got the basic idea out of the way, which is you as a corporate or an SME want to send your data to Barclays as your bank. How is this data transfer technology used and why? Well, the answer to that is it can be used in loads of different ways. And that includes, I want to get a new facility with Barclays Working Capital. You currently might have a loan or something along those lines, and you're growing and you want to discount your debtors and release equity there, When you're effectively getting a new facility, Barclays use it to digitize that financial collection. So before you sent it PDF or Excel, and they had to look at that on a manual basis. Now you can send it in a streamlined digital way. Secondly, when that data comes in, the credit team can then understand the data in a quicker, pre-analyzed format, so they know where to look and they can make a decision quicker. And then once that facility is approved, they can then onboard you as a client very, very quickly and refresh your data within minutes, whereas traditionally that can take days or weeks sometimes, depending on how quickly the SME can move. And then from there, it enables you to share your data so that Barclays can monitor your facility and understand you as a corporate in more detail. And lastly, the last two really are about operationally, this enables Barclays to reduce fraud, and because they understand you as an SME or a corporate in much more detail, effectively have a facility which is more attuned to your working capital cycle and manage any risks that might be coming and help advise on those things. And the type of data in the format they get enables that transparency and that ability to be an advisor to you as an SME. And lastly, in operations, one of the key things we're going to talk about the benefits here is the amount of time it saves you. So traditionally, there'd be a lot of data transfer. You have to put all your data together in a certain format, and you have to send it in, on a timely basis. This enables you to log on, refresh your data, and for Barclays to understand that data and operationally process your facility in a much quicker and efficient manner. And now I just want to talk about some of the common concerns, and this is really key, I think, that when we talk to various different banks all around the world, all the way down to small fintechs that are starting. One of the things is, will SMEs be okay with this? Well, one of the phrases I've nicked from somewhere that I love is the idea of digital trust. And what I mean by digital trust is, in a practical example, being quite personal about this, my parents 10 years ago said they would never buy anything off the internet, and now they're on Amazon every 3 hours buying something else to be delivered to the house. And that's a good example of the digital way the world is moving and people trusting platforms and technology after it's proven. And Validis has come into the market and has proved its technology and security very quickly, and SMEs have found it does save them time and it is of real value to them. But there are questions that come up still that you probably want answering. Number one is, I'm sending my data to you via this platform. Is it secure? Well, yes. Barclays have very stringent due diligence and audit processes for all their technology and their data transfer. So yes, it is secure. We're verified to 2 of the world leading standards, which is ISO 27001 and SOC 2, if you're interested. And what that really means is, yes, we're verified to the highest standards possible and to the same sort of level that you would expect in any banking application. And I can talk more about that if people have got questions. Number two, why do we need to access the accounting package? The accounting package effectively is the raw format of data, and we help to take that raw format of data and put it into a format that Barclays can understand very easily. So it enables quick transmission of data and greater financial insight to help Barclays lend you money in a better manner, I suppose, of a facility that's more attuned to your business and understand you in more detail. And that's where the data is held, so it's nowhere else. It actually comes through your accounting package. And then what happens to the financial data? This is all about sharing, right? This is all about sharing your data with your chosen bank of choice, which is Barclays. And that's the key elements they need, which is, P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, debtors, creditors, really, which is the sort of standard financial package that you would see across the market. Thank you. And then to recap, what we're really saying here is that, to summarize, you as a corporate or an SME is time poor. You want to be able to be efficient in the way that you deal with your bank. You want to enable your data to be transmitted in a secure fashion, and make sure that the cost of running your working capital facility is not costing you too much money administratively. The Validis Barclays Ledger Share also enables you to do that. And that effectively means for you, it can accelerate the decisions that you need. I need a bigger facility, I need to change my facility, I need a new facility. It enables you to reduce the process of managing that facility, so transmit your data to us, making sure that data can then be processed through the operational team at Barclays, and then effectively enables Barclays to have transparency, that they can lend you more money because they understand you better. So that really was a quick intro to our technology and some of the benefits and some of the key questions there of how it works. And now I'm going to hand over to Nick, back to Nick. And I hope that was helpful and informative.
Richard, thank you. That was really informative for me, and I think we do see, in everything we do day to day, huge amount of technology changes as well. So it's really good to see what's coming through as well from Validis and how that can drive benefits to our clients, and Torsten will talk about that more in a moment. But just before we go on to that, just got a second poll question for everybody on the line, and that question is, does your company use any form of financial data sharing technology? I'd like you to answer yes or no. So leave that one with you whilst I now hand over to Torsten, and Torsten's going to give us an overview from a Barclays perspective as well. So thank you, Torsten.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Richard. Good morning, everyone on the call. As we've heard from Richard about the general aspects of data sharing technology, I just want to bring it back into to how we specifically use it at the moment and how we are looking to use that kind of technology in the future. The core area where we use this technology is Barclays Sales Finance business. And I know that the audience consists largely of sales finance clients or prospects, so I'm not going to elaborate on what this, what sales finance is. But for those of you who are not familiar with the product, just a very few words on what the product is. So our core product is called confidential invoice discounting, and basically it's finance provided against an assignment of the whole debtor book. And as the name of the product says, it's confidential. That means that your debtors will not be aware of our involvement at all. It's confidential from a debtor's point of view. You will typically get much higher funding levels than with other products. Generally up to 90% of the eligible debt. Up to 90% of the eligible debt, but on average, I would say probably around 70%. And the key is that clients can upload their new invoices and credit notes onto our system, and funding will be available within 24 hours. That's kind of the product in a nutshell. So how are we using data share technology in this context? So the first use case is for surveying new clients. So before we decide that we can offer a sales finance facility to our clients, we undertake what's called a survey. And without data sharing technology, that's typically a surveyor or an auditor, if you like, spending 1 or 2 days at the client side and obtaining the sales ledger and accounting information and then analyzing it and asking pertinent questions. I've attended a number of those surveys, and there is really a large emphasis on actually getting the information in the first place. With data share technology, we can carry out the whole process remotely in some cases, but at the very least, obtain the data beforehand and then reduce the time spent at the client side. And that, in summary, that speeds up the whole process and makes it much more or much less intrusive. So we're spending either no time at all on the client side, or at the very least, much less time. The second use case is for periodic audits, which is largely the same. I mean, basically, we survey our clients at the start of a facility, and then in periodic intervals, we do a similar process, which is called the audit. That's because we largely operate the facilities on trust. So for a period of time, our clients tell us through uploading their invoices and credit notes, the state of their ledger. And there's one key control at the end of each month, which is called the month-end reconciliation. But largely, it's basically operated on trust. So from time to time, we need to carry out an audit to make sure we are still comfortable with the facility. And thus, it's basically the same. We can get the data up front, so we may be able to do the whole audit process remotely, or at the very least, spend less time at the client side. And the third use case is month-end reconciliation. I just mentioned it before, but just briefly what it is. As I said, clients basically operate the sales finance facility by providing us their ledger information, their sales and purchase ledger information in a summarized form. And basically, we're keeping a version of the client's ledger on our systems in a summarized form. And once a month, we'd like to check that what our clients have got on their systems and what we've got on our system basically tallies up. This process is called the month-end reconciliation. So previously, this was very much a spreadsheet-based exercise. With data share technology, we brought this into the 21st century, and clients can now complete the process online and follow a very simple step-by-step process, and they can see the playback of key information, such as, for example, the prime debtor concentration, and they can get straight confirmation of the data being submitted. This again makes the process much easier and quicker, and also more accurate. That's how we use data share technology within sales finance at the moment. Our vision is for the product is much wider than this, and data share technology is a key enabler for this vision. So we're basically looking to build a product that has no month-end reconciliation, that has no manual upload of invoices and credit notes, and that basically provides near real-time availability. So from a client perspective, this would look like a client basically does their invoice run as normal, and after each invoice run, the client just hits the Barclays Ledger Share button, and that uploads the data to us, and availability is effectively updated in real time or near real time. And the system in the background basically checks the covenants, checks for new invoices and credit notes, identifies any new or any unapproved invoices, i.e. those invoices that are too old, identifies the prime debtor, identifies any contra trading. So that all goes on in the background, but from a client point of view, you basically do the invoice run, you hit the BLS button, and within a few minutes, the availability is updated accordingly. This will make the product much easier to operate and really constitutes massive time savings for both clients but also for us at Barclays. And from a client's point of view, it's much more like an overdraft because the admin around this product is much reduced. So we have in Barclays, we've got all the building blocks in place. We just need to connect various different systems to get there. Just to give you an outlook, we're looking to run a pilot of this sort of end-to-end solution with about 20 clients in early 2019. And we're looking for volunteers really from our clients to participate in this pilot. If any of you is interested, drop us a note after this. I'm very excited about where we're taking the product and how we cooperate with Validis to get there. Thank you very much. With that, back to Nick, I think.
Torsten, many thanks for that, and many thanks, Richard, as well for your contribution there. And Torsten, I think Torsten, you and Richard have just sort of, covered a really interesting point for me, just around, how we in our day-to-day life look for speed and convenience and ease of transaction. Richard, you mentioned your parents with Amazon, and Torsten, you're talking about actually improving the process within sales finance as well. So I think, really, really enthusiastic about the technology that's coming through as well. So, but we've had a couple of questions come through as well whilst we've been on the line, and we'll just do those now. But please, if you've got any further questions, please feel free to add to these as well. So the first question is for Torsten. How far away from achieving the technology we've discussed today are we in reality?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned, I think we are a little bit away, but we're looking to run a manual pilot beginning of next year, which basically we'll need to get comfortable internally that we can actually run the product without the month-end reconciliation. So we're looking for about 20 pilot customers, to help us, evaluate whether that works, whether we can get comfortable with it. And then we'll probably need a few more months, if that pilot is successful, to make some further connections between our systems. But so second half 2019, I'm really hoping that we'll have something to go to market with on a wider scale.
Okay, so Torsten, that's good. That's good to hear that that's fairly imminent. 2019 is not that far away.
I can add as well. I think for the corporates that are on the line, the Validis technology has been embedded into the Barclays team now for over a year. So although we're talking about advancing technology within the products, it does currently feature, and you are able to benefit from this. It's more the fact of taking it to the next level. I think Torsten did, of really making it completely seamless for SMEs, which will be really powerful.
Absolutely, yeah. As I mentioned, we use the technology. We've got all the building blocks in place. We just need to establish a connection between our various systems, and that's it's.
Okay. Thanks, Torsten. Before I go on to the next question, Paul, could you just remind everybody on the call that they've got the opportunity to ask questions online as well?
Yes, for the participants, if you wish to ask a question, you may submit your questions on the web platform, and we will read the questions for you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. The next question that's come in, this is for you, Richard. How will I be able to connect to this type of technology that you discussed today?
There's two key things here. Firstly is the accountancy package you use to manage your business is key. So you have to have an accountancy package, number one. And an example of the accountancy package is Xero, QuickBooks, one of the Sage packages, Microsoft Dynamics. These are all packages that are used either by your accountant or by you. And either you or if your accountant has the data can send that in by using the platform. And this is also linked to, how do I actually take advantage of it? Well, the process is that you would log on to the portal. You would be invited, and you would log on to the portal and have a secure username and password onto the Barclays Ledger Share portal, and you would press connect. You would tell us which accounts package you're using. I'm using Xero. You press connect, and a pop-up comes up, a little bit like when these days it says authenticate, via my Facebook, authenticate via my Google, you authenticate using your username and password for your accounting package. And once you press connect, the data flows and the widget does its job, and then effectively you can close the browser and it's done. So to take advantage of it, you have to have an accounting package that we support, which are the major packages, and then your relationship manager can help you do that by inviting you onto the portal.
And just another question, the question for me actually at this stage, I mean, you've just talked about the connectivity, but how easy is it for me as an SME or a corporate to make contact with Validis to start that conversation?
It's pretty easy. I mean, we're used all over the world in different lenders to do different things. We're basically a utility, and we're used to being used in different manners and forms to help organisations like Barclays improve their customer satisfaction and the customer journey. So in terms of it being easy, yeah, it's all about our technology being integrated into the Barclays process and helping the SMEs effectively spend less time doing admin. That's what we're really talking about. It's taking your financial data as an SME or a corporate and then translating it into information in a format that Barclays want. And Validis gives you the ability within the customer journey to send your data without having to think about it and do loads of manual work. So it's a seamless way of doing something that's always been manual. This is when you send your data in to a bank, you have to take it out of your accounting package as a trial balance and translate that into financials, and using the technology enables you to do that, Nick, without having to think. Really, it takes a couple of minutes.
Yeah, which is really good. Thank you for that. I mean, known from personal experience in the past when, with clients, when you're talking about month-end reconciliations and the other level of information that we require off them, it can be quite time-consuming for the corporate and the SME. But we're definitely seeing the benefits within Barclays, certainly around the technology that's coming through. Just one final question, I think, that's just come through. You just talked about seamless technology there. Richard, are there any other examples of seamless technology?
We have quite a few. I mean, the Validis technology, as I said, is integrated around the world in different banks, different organisations, all the way from very small fintech startups that want to have some sort of groundbreaking customer experience, and that's why people will shop with them, all the way to the top 4 accountants in the world. So we're used in PwC and Deloitte for the audit process that Torsten talked about. Any process where financial data is needed to transmit, we can be used in. So we're integrating into a lot of platforms. I'm not going to name loads of different banks, but in terms of the seamless technology, the way that you go through transmitting your data and managing your facilities as an SME can really be streamlined by sending your data in the format so that Barclays can understand it very quickly, very easily, and effectively lend you more money because they understand you as an SME.
Okay. Useful. Thank you. Thank you for that, Richard. I don't think there's any more questions that have come through on the system. So I'd like to give a massive thank you to our speakers today for being kind enough to share their skills and experience in such an accessible and practical manner. So thank you, Richard. Thank you, Torsten. We at Barclays strive to provide maximum support to corporate and SME clients, so please do reach out to your local Barclays contacts for more information on the services and help that we can offer as a bank. So the slides from today's webinar, as well as from previous webinars from 2018, can be requested along with any inquiries or questions you have by emailing trade&workingcapital@barclays.com. As I said earlier, the results of the poll will be shared post the call as well. So we'll be getting those out and making those available. And finally, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you all.